Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we'll see how subtotal works. Subtotal is a formula often neglected, but that can speed up your work compared to other functions. Let's see how it works first, and then I'll show you two practical examples where it is most useful. We'll use our usual security database, where we now first have two columns for the category of the security and the country where the security headquarters is located. Next, we have the name of the securities, and finally, in column D, we have the value in $1,000 that was owned by Warren Buffett for each security at the end of 2020. Note that the securities are listed by category first and sorted largest to smallest within each category. We'll see together how to do that in an upcoming video. So, first things first, how subtotal works. If we right here, right below the subtotal header, press equal subtotal, as you see, we have the suggestion from Excel, we press the tab key and we have it all. As a first thing, we need to choose a number from a list. The list goes from 1 to 11, and then it goes on from 101 to 111. And here the first peculiarity of subtotal. Subtotal can do multiple operations. You need to tell the function what to do. Out of the list, I've mostly used subtotal with sum and sometimes with max, min, or count a. Let's ignore for a second options from 101 to 111 and let's focus on 1 to 11. In particular, let's pick 9 for the sum, comma, and now we need to choose the range that we want to sum. Let's say all the securities. So we select this one, Control Shift down, we select them all, we press enter, and we have roughly $270 billion. Or 270 millions, as it is written here, because the current value is in $1,000. If we use the sum formula here to the right, and let's write sum, we write sum, we open the parentheses, and we take all the securities once again, we get the same result. Well, of course, because as of now, subtotal is simply performing a sum. So why bothering using subtotal? There's a reason why I wrote the formula up here. When you have long databases and you use free space like we're doing to keep the first rows always visible, it could be practical to have the sum of your values quickly under control. So you write it here on top of the database instead of at the bottom where you have to scroll down to get the information you're looking for. Still, no reason for using subtotal, I know. But here's the deal. If you have to filter your database and you want to sum the values only for the remaining items, subtotal automatically updates its value by considering only the cells included in the result of the filter. So for example, let's filter by category. We go here, sort and filter, and we select only communications. We press enter, and you see that now we have a new subtotal value, which is the sum of only the communications securities, as you see down here, while the sum didn't change, and we still have $270 billion. This is extremely convenient when you want to quickly see the result of your actions on a subset of rows you select. This is the first very useful application of subtotal. Before moving to the second one, let's discuss the difference between choosing options 1 to 11 and options 101 to 111. Let's clear the filter here. Okay, and write subtotal 109 up here. So subtotal 109. Okay, let's type the formula. So subtotal tab key 109, which is once again, if we scroll down here, the sum, comma, we select all the values, close the parentheses, we press enter, and as you see, we get once again the same result. And let's write subtotal 9 here to make crystal clear the difference. Okay, so what's the difference between subtotal 9 and subtotal 109? The difference is that when you choose options 101 to 111, the subtotal formula will ignore rows that you hide. And let's see it done. Let's hide, for example, Coca-Cola, which is a big one. We can quickly hide the row by pressing the shortcut Ctrl and 9. And as you see, subtotal 9 still has $270 billion, while subtotal 109 now has a lower value. This rule applies to any option you select from 101 to 111, and this is the only difference between numbers 1 to 11 and numbers 101 to 111. However, be careful that there are two exceptions to the rule. First, if you filter rows, subtotal 9 and subtotal 109 will behave in the same way. Let's take only communication securities once again. So we take that, we press enter, and we now have 19 billions once again, both here and here. And now if we hide, for example, Liberty Broadband Corporation, right click, hide, as you see, both subtotal 9 and 109 now display a lower value and the same one. The same would happen if you first hide the row and then apply the filter. Why is that so? I don't know. Second exception. Here we're applying subtotal to multiple rows, summing one column. However, if you're applying subtotal to multiple columns, summing one row, if you hide a column, subtotal 109 will not change its result. So in case of horizontal databases, there is no difference at all between options 1 to 11 and 101 to 111. Why is that so? Again, I don't know. Let's now see the second useful application of subtotal, and the one that actually gives the name to the formula. With subtotal, you can nest multiple subtotal functions to easily calculate the subtotals and the grand total of a set of values. Confused? This is once again more easily explained with an example. Let's say that we want to know the total value for each category on top of the grand total of 270 billions we already have up here in these three cells. We could easily do this with a pivot table, but let's say we want to see it here in the database. To do so, we add one row down here, insert, we write communications subtotal, we make the whole row bold, and here we write sum of all these securities, and we have 19 millions. We can do the same for consumer. We can also type Ctrl+ to add the row. We write consumer subtotal. We make the row bold. Once again, sum. Okay, and we could do that for each category, but for the sake of time, let's just add one last row with other subtotal. Let's make it bold, and here sum of all these securities. Enter. Okay, now you see the problem. The grand total up here now has a much higher value, both for the sum and the subtotal functions, since now they also sum the subtotal rows, as you see if we scroll up here. Of course, we're not including the last subtotal, as we added a row at the bottom of a database, but we have these two, which are messing up our sum. When you're in this situation, you need to sum either all the values, excluding the subtotals, or just the subtotals. Let's do this second way. So equal this one plus this one plus, scroll to the bottom, control and arrow down, enter, and we're back to $270 billion. In this case, we have just 3 subtotals, so it's not that hard. But in case you have many more of them, summing each of them becomes time consuming, and even worse, there are high chances of making some mistakes. But here's the deal, instead of using the sum function, we can use subtotal. And so let's replace the sums with the subtotal function. So let's start from this one, equal subtotal 9, which is the sum, as you see here, as you remember, comma, we select the securities, shift page up, okay, close, enter, and of course we still get the same result as before, equal subtotal 9, comma, we select these cells up to the first one, close, enter, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, let's paste the formula here and adjust the range, enter, and now, as you see up here, both subtotal 9 and subtotal 109 are back to $270 billion, even if both formulas are also summing the subtotal cells. This is due to the fact that subtotal ignores other subtotal functions included in its range of values, so there is no problem in including them in the range you sum. This is a great feature. As you could see, getting our grand total in this way is much faster and safer, because you don't need to pay attention to where your subtotals are within the range. And these are the most useful applications of subtotal. As usual, keep them in your pocket and use them when needed. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked this video. Feel free to leave a message in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you want to stay up to date with the newest releases. Bye bye.